I have to apologize because we weren't able to join you last week. And I'm only apologizing because I really do enjoy the time I spend with Donnie and Gov. And, I have to mention people say, well, the content game is oversaturated, or Twitter has become toxic because of the Twitter blue situation, and it's harder to advertise, and you should do more collaborations. And, like everyone has their idea of like, oh, is there too many podcasts or all of this? But one thing, I don't care about any of those optics. All I care about are, is my friends okay? Do I enjoy like my time away from work? Do I find purpose in it? And that's why this podcast works for me, because it's a sounding board for me to build my own lineups. Like, I'm profiting off of my lineups, and Donnie and Gov just allow me kind of that sounding, board material, and then we're allowed to use that material as bulletin board for our viewers, whether that be two viewers, one viewer, 20,000 viewers down the road. Like, that's why you should do content. You shouldn't do content because you want to be rich and famous. And if you do that kind of content, that's fine. I know that kind of thing exists, but I don't really pay any attention. So, Donnie Gov, I'm glad to be back. And again, I'm just glad that we're back together. And then hopefully somebody else can glean some kind of entertainment from this.
Oh,
Well,
I will say, I'm glad to be back here. The end of NBA season has been a grind for me. So between that, start of MLB, it's been kind of a busy week. So,
yeah.
Not to mention, I had birthdays on birthdays last week for me and my brother and everything. So I sort of needed the week to just deal with stuff. So I'm glad you guys have been accommodating of that. But I'm glad to be back here talking. This is always a good soundboard, if nothing else.
Donnie, do you have any takeaways when it comes to that though? Because I know a lot of people will, like, even the NBA slate. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago how I'm not playing it anymore because, like, you just get the random player. I mean, I think it was a couple of weeks ago when we did do a show, we talked about Luke Kennard. But some people enjoy that. Some people really enjoy that deep dive. Some people like us enjoy the XFL. Other people will only play, DFS, NFL. Like, so anything outside of the NFL doesn't really qualify football, including college for some people. So I think it's okay to be empowered by, whatever podcast, whatever kind of motivation you get. I just think there's a place and a time for all content.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I'm just trying to have a good time when I do this show. And if we feel, I like that if we feel like we're not going to put out the best possible show, we just won't. We'll postpone it or whatever,
It's kind of a perk of we're an early show. We're trying to figure it out. So, like I said, that's actually a good point because I hear a lot of people just throwing this out there because it's in my head now. When they talk about getting a stream up or trying to create your channel or whatever, most of them say the best thing to do, churn out content, and just get it out there to going. I think our quality will end up shining through. If people can go back to our early stuff and rewatch it and see a good quality show, even if we don't get consistent and don't get a huge base going early, it'll end up helping in the long run, I think. Well, that level of consistency is just hard to build.
Not only consistency, but transparency. Like, we don't need the best viewership right now, because when I speak to you and we build an XFL lineup, and that lineup does pretty well, and it wins me more than if I was just going to build a lineup very quickly. Not only do I have a proof of concept because I can go back and watch it for my own growth and my own lessons, but I'm like, oh, Donnie made a good point here. He made a good point about stacking Lamar Jackson and, Rashard Bateman. So I can use that in my baseball lineup, or I can use that in my golf lineup, which Donnie has no idea about any golf, but I can use the concepts I learned from each of you. And hopefully, even if we never get, a big platform, somebody gets value out of it. Maybe somebody watching is only one person, but that one person ends up winning $1 million, And the reason I bring all this up is because, there's been a lot of drama in the DFS streets recently. Like Run Pure Sports had a big divide where they were a group of friends that became a business, and then business decisions were made, and they ended up having a split. And it's that's because their vision changed. It wasn't that it was good or bad; it just changed.
Yeah, we don't have all the details on that, but yeah, that sounds about like what seems to happen. Yeah, and that'll happen. If we came together and loved this podcast and it became something, and then we wanted to make it a business and monetize it and do all that, maybe we'd have to hire a CEO or someone else to help with it. Then we have to bring them in. Now we're talking about equity, partnership, stuff like that. Now it's a politics game. And that totally fucks up friendships always. I hate that shit.
Well, that's why you got to be honest and open about things from the beginning. If we have a chance to monetize this podcast, I will. But I'm not.
I would tell you to do so.
Right, but that's not the only goal.
Exactly.
And so tonight is we briefly, to give the people behind the scenes, we briefly talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. But I had no idea I was going to spend the first 8 minutes of this podcast speaking about this. I didn't even know, and I kind of quote unquote run it. We talked about the NBA playoffs. We talked about the Dallas Mavericks, because I want these conversations to be organic, even though we might have a loose concept of what we want to talk about. Let's speak about expectations, though, and just things that didn't go as planned. I know, Donnie, you had brought up that the Eastern Conference for the NBA was locked in. Is there any sports takeaways? Because we're getting near that point in the calendar where things are starting to thaw out. Winter's starting to transition. We're getting that spring. So think of it in a spring cleaning kind of way. Is there any kind of spring cleaning you want to do with sports? Any takeaways that you want to flush out, get off your chest tonight?
I mean, I think my biggest thing is, if we're just talking strictly about something quick that I wanted to say about NBA wise, would be all these people have been buying into the 76ers, and I don't get why. We've consistently seen them do this, have good regular seasons, and it all goes away in the playoffs. Yes, this year Embiid probably has the MVP locked up, but I really don't. This is not a different Sixers team.
I would disagree with that 1,000. Joker has that locked up, in my opinion.
I agree.
The betting odds say it's Embiid.
I don't know who they're betting on. I haven't seen shit from him. I saw Embiid totally shit the bed against Miami last night. That's what I saw from Embiid.
Well, I haven't checked it since the game against the Celtics, but after the Celtics game,
the fact that
he was
Joker
minus 750.
The fact that Joker's missed the last 4 games, so he's basically going to sit the last 7 or 8 of the season before the playoffs. But they're still the 1 seed because of him. I don't see him not being the front runner unless it's Giannis as the front runner. I don't think it is. It's Joker or Embiid. That's what it's been. And the only reason it's skewing Embiid right now is because of Joker missing games here at the end. But I haven't seen anything from Embiid in these last few games that tells me he's the MVP.
He dropped 50 the other night.
He did. What was it, like 2 nights ago? He did have that 180-point game. I do remember that. It was like Saturday.
Yeah, he had 50, 10, and 5 against the Celtics.
Hold on, though.
Yeah, but that's the Celtics. They're garbage.
No, hold on though. Joker had 66 points this season, and has the most triple doubles of any big man. I think
recency bias, man.
No, see, that's the thing. Because Joker's missed the last 7, and in that 7 games, Embiid did what you said in one of those 7 games, and then and then 2 of the others they were blown out by 20, and he looked like shit.
Donnie, is it recency bias or consistency? Like, I know everyone wants to ding Joker for winning so many MVPs, and that kind of fatigue has been the marker why we wouldn't give it to him. But
I would also like to point out, just before it goes forward, I have a horrible bias and think 1,000 times what you think about Philly. They're god-awful and are way, way above what they actually are. I don't believe Embiid is anywhere close to MVP. There's at least 4 guys I would put ahead of him most years.
Embiid is not my personal MVP, but the betting odds have a minus 750.
No, yeah, and that's where I think Vegas wins their money, is when people bet on Embiid at minus 750. Like, that's my thought on the process. It's like Vegas is going to win their money by every other person that gets bet on that's not the actual MVP. And so, like, who's the one that's the weird? I would be looking at where are you going to make the least amount of money if they're MVP? And those odds go to Joker and Giannis. They're giving you decent odds on Embiid winning MVP at this point.
Now,
it's just getting bet that way because of the bias skew of his one big game against Boston on Saturday. That was also televised. I was at work, so you are reminding me of something that I saw in fantasy when I got off work. Like, oh, Embiid was the guy you had to have. And wow, you had to have him today.
Well, because we're DFS.
But then I also saw him last night before I went to see the Mario movie play Miami and not even be able to play in the fourth quarter because they're losing by 20.
In a game where Mike Muscala and Luke Cornett had a combined 29 minutes, Embiid should go off. And Blake Griffin played.
I was about to say that the Embiid goes off against Boston when Boston didn't play Horford or Time Lord.
No, Horford played 35.
Okay, so they still played Horford. I also have
Grant
this bias
played 29.
I also have this bias of I think most everyone on Boston is the 1A version of what they should be, and they're a 1A championship team, and that's my thought on Boston. They're very good, but they're really not going to ever win it. That's my thought on that.
Can we not have that conversation right now?
We'll wait until after the end of the playoffs.
We'll wait until we won't have that conversation at all because I'm a Celtics fan and it's hurting my feelings.
Sorry. well, again, if we want to have the conversation, I'm an Orlando Magic fan, and I don't know why they didn't play their main dudes in their home closer against everyone. They decided to play the backup team, who I guess had been working really hard in that gym all year, doing all the extra stuff.
Programming note before we continue with any other topic. Why don't we tell the people what we're doing on Sunday? Because I do think it's a kind of a special event. I haven't even fleshed it out completely with you guys, but we are going to do a special NBA show where we do more of these optic kind of conversations. So we did kind of want to lead the show with a trick or treat kind of optic look at different teams, whether it be Dallas, whether it be Philly. But you're going to get a lot more of this. And we're going to go back to our previous podcast where we did a best ball draft, and we're going to pull out our season-long takes from a few months ago and see where we were right and where we were wrong. Not just about the NBA, but mainly about the NBA. Some of those old takes, kind of the old takes exposed, but in a transparent kind of fun way. And I think that will be very interesting for the people. So you can join us this weekend, holiday weekend. We're giving back to the people a little bit and giving back to ourselves. It should be a fun little show for accountability purposes.
Yep, I will be ready whatever time you guys need after about 4:30 on Sunday.
That sounds about right for me as well. I wanted to say though, because I'm biased too, and I wanted to be honest about that. I'm a huge Joker fan, and I think Gov mentioned it, and we can transition. This is the perfect way to do so. Is sometimes you can have two-man races, or you can have something that seems obvious, like C.J. Stroud, to kind of bring it to a different avenue, just to make the point, versus Bryce Young. Where are the odds? Where's the value? Is there value in taking Young because he's a plus number and CJ is not? Is there evidence because of McCowan talking on Underdog about his love for Young? We can make arguments that are sound, that are incorrect all the time. You can have biases that are incorrect or correct all the time. There are also times where you're like, these two guys, Embiid and Joker, are the most likely MVPs, and therefore there's no value at all. Don't bet anything because there's just no. Even if you're right, the edge you would get, the EV, the return on an investment, just isn't worth it. And I do think there's times where you have to acknowledge that just in life. This could happen or this could happen, but the likelihood of it happening for your advantage isn't worth the cost analysis. So that's kind of where I wanted to lead this next conversation, is just like understanding, those two are most likely the plays, but there's so many things that could happen that I just wouldn't bet anything with the NBA MVP. I actually think if you're going to bet anything for the NBA in the last week, it would be like teams to make the playoffs, because those are like more advantageous for me.
I saw an interesting golf bet today. Actually, somebody bet I think it was $222,000. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. 6 digits,
Right?
And it was for Tiger Woods to not win the Masters. It only wins $2,000 profit, but I guess it's a guaranteed $2,000 profit.
I saw that, but he is on the cut fringe level, so that bet might cash by tomorrow morning, Donnie, because he could miss the cut. And I want to speak about that because Rob Pizzola, who I listen to a lot, professional gambler, has also offered a lot of support for this podcast, and he has been on our airwaves as a speaker before. I pulled up some of his audio, and he's always been very kind about using his audio on our podcast or other podcasts. So I will pull up the Tiger Woods opinion maybe for Sunday where he speaks about it. All he asked us to do was cite his Hammer betting website. So I'll do that Sunday where you can actually get his takeaways. But his takeaway was, it's a good bet if you have that amount of money to invest in it. And that's where you should look at things like investments. If you have X amount of marbles, then risking X amount of marbles is worth it, Donnie. If you only have 2 things in your refrigerator, then, you can't dream up the third thing you wish you could eat because there's only 2 things in your refrigerator. So, that's where when we give advice, it's got to be for entertainment purposes, mainly because, neither one of us are going to go out and tell people what to do with their money.
Right.
Gov, you have any takeaways?
I'll have more on Sunday, really, on that. Honestly.
Right, saying Tiger Woods is a good bet depends on how much money you have to risk and what that risk reward is.
Yeah, but it's bankroll management. So right, exactly. Are you it's the risk, like you say with the risk something like if you're willing to make that bet, then you're also willing for that bet to fail, no matter how much you think it can go through.
It's true. If you put $100 in Warren Buffett's hands or $100 in my hands, the value of that $100 doesn't actually physically change. But depending on who holds that money, we're going to do different things, and we're just going to currently have different assignments with that money. That's just a fact. and that's okay as well. I did want to mention though, because like as we transition to an XFL lineup or an NFL lineup or any lineup we ever build, I I, I just people do this where they're like, oh well, the XFL is failing because the prize pools are getting smaller, or they were never going to be successful because the prize pools were never going to be this large, or they didn't have X player. But I think like at some point you can still build good lineups. Like I know Pete Overzet talked about this with Davis Manick on their podcast recently, Gov, and his point was this: is are you playing DFS to win money, or sports betting to win money, or are you doing it for entertainment? And it's okay to have a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
In your recipe, or be all in or all out. But don't fool yourself into thinking,
You have to be honest with yourself.
right?
What you're doing.
So he was saying, like, for example, people want to bet on football, right? So you make NFL lineups. But if you really wanted to have an edge, Donnie, we might tell you to build a golf lineup, or to learn golf. But Donnie's like, oh, I hate golf. But maybe that's the biggest edge. And so maybe if we really wanted to make money, Donnie, the way to make money is to learn golf. Or to like, I don't know if you know this, but you can bet on cornhole, or you can bet on pickleball. But I have no interest in watching mini golf or pickleball or people play badminton or tennis, But if you really want to be a professional gambler, then you kind of got to take the fun out of sports in some ways.
Yeah.
And some of my friends say that I've taken the enjoyment out of sports. I mean, I watched the first round of the playoffs a couple years ago with my friend, and he hated how I sweated DFS. Now, me and Gov have sweated a ton of DFS NFL showdown lineups and had tremendous fun with a group of people. Like hours of fun. He watched that same process with me, Gov, and hated it. He said he didn't like the sports fan I'd become. He just didn't like any version of it. So like I probably won't invite him over anymore to sweat DFS with me. And that's fine. And he's okay to have that opinion. It's just like for him, that change in how I viewed sports had because the game was out of reach. And I was still cheering for, I think it was Gino Bernard to score a touchdown for the Bucks in that game. He could not wrap his head around how I could still be excited, even though
like it's garbage time.
Right.
Like how are you excited? This game is over. It's like, I just need that guy to get me a touchdown or whatever points he can get.
Right. And to him, that was selfishness. It's like, but to me, it's like, in a way, we kind of provide value to those guys as well.
Here's the thing. Like, you're still enjoying something that most people aren't able to enjoy. You're still enjoying the sport that you love. Just a casual fan that wouldn't do that isn't able to enjoy it anymore.
Exactly. Like, I'll make this point, and this pisses them off, but it's also true. The reason the XFL is watched as much of it as it is because of gambling. So he can be like, oh, well, you're only watching because of your emotional value, or because you can make money. Yeah, but that's also supporting some kid to continue his dream. That's also supporting AJ McCarron to continue to play football, and so his kids can watch him play football. Like, both things exist. But it is true. If I didn't have money on the line, I probably wouldn't watch the XFL so intently. But damn it, if both things can't be true. That's kind of where I'm at. So do you guys want to make any more points on that?
No.
Nope.
Like, for example, Donnie, I'll make this last point just to kind of bring it full circle. If you had that Tiger Woods bet, would you watch tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I think, where Tiger Woods has a chance to finish up the last 4 holes that got suspended?
No. I would not.
At what point would you? Is there a money value? Like, see, that's
If I knew it was Tiger Woods' last time golfing, like professionally, I might tune in.
no. I'm
that's-
saying if you had that bet that guy has for him not to win, would you watch?
No,
So
because I think it's a safe assumption to assume that he's not going to win. Like the
Okay.
whole thing.
Fair enough. I'm just saying there is a point and a price at what point you would watch something.
I mean, I'm sure there will be a golfer one day that catches my eye.
I was about to say, like,
Right now, there isn't a big golfer that catches my eye. Like, I don't have a Tiger in a sense.
Yeah. And to your point right now, Logan, like, if you made that bet before the Masters started, at this point, just like Donnie said, I probably wouldn't be watching it. I'd be going out spending my money because I'm winning that bet.
Right. Okay. I wasn't going to mention this, but I almost have to now because I just think it's such a good correlation here. So a couple weeks ago, Rob Rizzola, who I mentioned with the Tiger Woods bet, was also he's launched his new betting platform called the Hammer Betting Network, and so he's been doing a lot of live watch-alongs, and then showing you like how he does his live prop betting, right? Like so touchdowns, first touchdown scored, stuff like that. And so he had great success with that during the playoffs. So he continued to do some of that. And one of those things was a niche sport, and it was mini golf. And people were joking around thinking like, oh, this is a gimmick. He's not actually going to show mini golf. But you could bet on mini golf. I think it was on FanDuel. And he placed a bunch of mini golf bets, ended up doing pretty well, and did a whole watch-a-thon. Well, then he kind of had fun with it, saying like, oh, maybe next time I won't just bet this, I'll play in it, right? And then it got into this whole thing in his community. Oh, well, you could bet on something, but that doesn't mean you'd actually be good at it. And that company saw his watch along and actually invited him out to come out and play in 2 weeks. So he's actually going to be playing mini golf and his own watch-a-thon in a couple weeks. So that's kind of my point to come full circle is like we could do this for ourselves, just for fun to build a lineup. And then if the right person watches on Twitter and likes and sends this out, we could become big overnight. But I just don't want to change who we are. Like I don't want to force Donnie to watch golf so we can make $5 a week, And that's not the goal. I actually really enjoyed the XFL, but DFS does add to it.
The games have been very good.
Yeah, they have been. And speaking to that, let's build a lineup because I do think a lot of things have changed, and I do think we're going to see some big advantages. I did want to mention, though, as we get on to building this lineup, 5 weeks ago, I bet the Seattle Dragons to win the Super Bowl, the equivalent of the Super Bowl. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, and they haven't lost since I made that bet. So that's looking really good. I think I bet $1 to win like $9. So I got them at like plus 850 or like plus 900 or something like that. So sometimes there is value to those type of things. But we do have a lot of injuries. We have a lot of Q tags. We have brand new players on teams. So did you guys want to start anywhere in particular? Because I did just have some headline news to cover.
Do we want to just start with headlines?
Yeah. Give me a headline.
Okay, so Philip Lindsay has signed with the Dragons.
Really?
Yes.
I like that.
And he's cheap, and the other running backs got injured. So I want to play him, but I want to see if you guys have any storyline takeaways.
I mean, for him, doesn't
He
that
will
not
probably
make him
be one of the chalkiest running backs on the slate. Like,
does that not make him the most talented one in the league, though?
From what I've seen, like Brian Hill and Abram Smith and Max Borghi are actually pretty damn good.
Max Borghi,
but Lindsay would have the best pedigree because his pedigree is better than Brian Hill.
And let's not forget the guy who runs the Seattle Dragons, June, is the predecessor of the Houston Roughnecks offensive coordinator. So the way Houston uses Max Borgi is a lot how they think June's going to use Lindsey. And Lindsey has the NFL experience. Borgi doesn't, to Gus' point. So I'm almost locking Lindsey in my personal lineups. We always build this one together. I guarantee you Lindsey will be in my lineups if I was in complete control of this lineup. I have no problem saying that.
I would
Like,
like
he's
to
at
play
he's at a solid
Lindsey.
price point. Like if he ends up fitting, he ends up fitting.
I'm not even forcing it.
You need to realize he'll probably end up being very, very chalky.
I think if he's 90% owned, that's not enough, Go.
I kind of agree with you. Like, I'm willing to almost lock him, but I haven't delved. I was going to delve deep into it like tonight just to see exactly what I have, and he might be the cheapest of the viable running backs.
I mean, because I'm looking right
Patrick at 60.
I'm looking right now. Charlie, the other running back that's active, is a fullback. The Hawaiian, I think he's Hawaiian or Samoan. I think he played in Hawaii even in college a couple of years ago. Like, he is completely a fullback. Did get some NFL experience. This PJ Hammonds guy, we played him in week 1. He was a wide receiver in college. Played some wide receiver kind of kick returner in the NFL, I believe, for a practice squad team. Had never really played running back on a professional level, so he's not even a traditional running back. The only traditional running back they have on their roster that's not on the IR is Bradwell, who played for your Panthers, who got that kind of practice squad invite, besides Phil Lindsay. So I just think, given the opportunity, I think Lindsay's a smart play. Another guy going under the radar, though, I want to mention that has that same NFL pedigree in a different position, who was a late signing, is the former Chargers Michael Bandy, who is a pure slot guy, but played meaningful snaps for the Chargers this season because of all their injuries, because we saw Keenan and Mike and those guys get hurt. Michael actually saw the field quite a bit, and the Chargers were a borderline playoff team most of that run. I want to play Bandy a lot because I just think he has a chance to really tear this league up, especially given that DraftKings, again, is a PPR website.
So, can you just do you know how many targets he got or no? Or do we have a percentage of snap counts?
He hasn't played.
Let's see as a catch.
Oh, maybe he played last week. I might be wrong on that. Like, again, it looks like he signed on the 30th. So
and hold on, I'm looking.
That's
for him.
Yeah.
But just to speak on him, he's purely a slot guy. He's kind of like Wes Welker. Like, he's got really good hands.
He got 3 targets last week.
But he does have that NFL pedigree. I am right about that. I might be wrong about a lot of things, including some of my takeaways here. But he does have NFL pedigree for a good Los Angeles Chargers team.
Yeah, and if he gets snaps, like, he's definitely in their rotation of guys. But Roughnecks are not without receivers.
I guess.
Although without Kirkland, they're basically just cycling through as many guys as possible.
That's the point I was going to make. Kirkland's not there. So do you think he takes a Putman? Does he take Putman's role now that he's like on the team now? Does Bird continue to be the guy averaging 9 fantasy points? Or just like, am I digging too deep? Because my thought process is, if I'm going to go with a chalky Lindsey, if I get a little bit different with the NFL pedigree guy, that could be enough. It's also why I like Fred Brown, who played for Denver, who has been really consistent and just too cheap for some reason. Like, he is the new version of Cody Lattimore.
See, This is actually where I'd like to try a different strategy on that, because I get what you're doing. Like, you're going to play a chalky guy, so to counteract that, you're going to try to play some 2% guy that maybe no one's going to play, but
Right.
he has a really good chance of he has a chance of doing something, and no one else is going to know about it. And if I hit there, then everything else can go right, no problem. I think we should do it another way, a way I kind of like to do it. Instead of counteracting Chalky Lindsay with one super low owned guy that we have to try to hit on, let's just build something slightly different.
Yeah. Well,
with more of the mid-range stuff.
Yeah. My opinion is there's not enough talent spread throughout the league in order to look for that cheap no-name guy like we have in the NFL or the NBA.
No, I actually disagree. I think because we're at the end of their season, there will be guys just randomly who will have spike games because of, well, maybe not even injury concern, just because let's try to get more guys visibility if they're trying to get a contract in another league somewhere. So I could see guys having random spike touchdowns or something using their fifth receiver. They're definitely all going to go 5 to 6 receivers deep, most likely. So there are guys who, like Bandy, might only be on the field 15% of the time, but in that 15% of the time, he gets 3 targets. Can he burn one for a touchdown and actually have it pay off for you? Yes, he could.
Right.
That's why I don't mind the process of doing that with a Lindsay. But I would say let's let's pair Lindsay with more of the slightly lower owned stuff. So let's not immediately put a 1%er in, but let's immediately say if we're playing Lindsay, we can't then play DiNucci and McCarron.
Fair enough.
They're going to be the chalkiest quarterbacks.
And I think
we can't do a chalky stack, something like that.
Right. I think that's smart because I want to make that point on quarterback since you brought it up, and then we can build a lineup. Look at all the injuries at quarterback. If we take out the first game, which I think is a bad game to target usually ownership-wise anyways, that's the only game that doesn't have injury concerns at quarterback, I believe, this week. And the Vipers have Huntley and then McClellan, that's it. McClellan? I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. I know he played last week.
McClendon.
See, they haven't been solidified at all. But they only have 2, right? And then you got McCarron, who's consistent. But look at some of these injuries this week. Flood is out, and then Luis Perez got traded. He was inactive because of the trade. People think he's going to play, but they're not even sure on that because he was traded due to health concerns. Apparently, that was why the team was willing to give up on him. Orlando has 2 quarterbacks out. Lynch and the other running quarterback they had is out. Dempsey looked really good, the kid out of Central Michigan. And then Flowers is kind of a running quarterback similar to King, who plays for DC, was earlier this season. Silvers was just ruled out. So it looks like we're going to get McDonald for Houston, a very pass-happy team. And then so they brought in Kirk, who I mentioned a couple weeks ago from the Falcons practice squad. He's now hurt on the IR. I think it was a knee injury he had announced on Twitter. Jack Cohen's still out. Maybe has a chance to play. And then so it looks like maybe Pass would get another opportunity. But Pass got passed up by Kirk, who didn't even get a full week of practice. So how much confidence do you have in that guy, even if he is one of the few guys? Ben DiNucci's pretty much locked in with Seattle, but then you have King, who looks likely to maybe be the starter this week, and not Taimu, which is just a weird situation. So we got a lot of quarterback carousel this week. It's a very strange week. Because I have no idea why they're listing King number 1 and during time of 3, but that's how DraftKings has it, and that's how I saw it this week as well on the internet. So nobody knows for sure.
You just have it. You just have it sorted by like player name right now. It looks like.
Well, maybe that's why
DEJ. Yeah.
Maybe that's why they had on DraftKings. But I did see where they thought about starting King this week for that kind of exposure reason. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying like that's the kind of like up in the air nature you get with this league. I think Donnie mentioned it earlier. With like, do we just play talent because there's very few people left, or do you outsmart yourself with that kind of narrative sometimes? You know, it's interesting. So, do you guys have any strong quarterback takeaways while we?
I see.
I honestly loved like Dormandy actually had a pretty solid game last week. I feel good for him for that. I think he's fine, honestly. Because like I said, we can't play McCarron or DiNucci. They're going to be two of the highest owned.
I would play Cole McDonald as who I'd play.
I don't mind Coleman. Can we look at who's your second option at quarterback? If you had to rank your top 3 quarterbacks, what would they be in order?
DiNucci.
Well, to play this week. So, like, if we were gonna, you would play DiNucci.
Yeah, it would be McDonald or DiNucci because that's how I build lineups. I'm either going all the way to the star or all the way to the scrub. That's just how I build my lineups typically. So maybe, like you guys mentioned, playing that middle ground, maybe forcing me to play that middle ground is the way to do it.
I could do the McDonald. I like Dormandy as another bet, and I would also play DiNucci, but I can't play DiNucci with Lindsey. So
we know Quentin Dormandy is going to get all the snaps pretty much. Flowers is pretty much a very limited rushing quarterback. He's basically there for emergency and maybe goal line situations. But the problem is maybe the salary price of Dormandy is going to bring him down a bit, but I do think he'll be high owned. I do think he's the highest owned quarterback this week, him and DiNucci.
Might be. I don't know how much recency bias people are going to have. DiNucci, I understand, will be, and probably should be.
The same thing with Donnie's take on talent, though. I just think people tend to scoreboard watch a lot when it comes to the XFL. But maybe that's...
Well, I've been having to do that a lot lately because I work Saturdays all day, so I haven't been able to watch as much XFL as I wanted to.
Donnie, that doesn't always help. Trust me. I mean, I played Brett Hundley, who had 0 points because he didn't even play a snap and was just an emergency backup last week. So we've had a lot of success, but even we're going to get some things wrong here and there. But where do we want to start? If we had to lock something in, let's just lock something in and see how it fits, just to get it started.
Well, I feel like I really would like to play Lindsey as well. I think that's something you want to play. I like to build a lineup with that same type of. If there's somebody who I feel like just got the talent to do it, why not?
So
even if he is shocky.
Play Lindsey.
Got to play Lindsey.
His ownership might be lower than Gov thinks, and I think it might be because if you were to sort by points, he's not going to come up, and he is last in the depth chart. Now, smart people are going to play him, but I think we underestimate how many dumb people will put in dummy lineups. Like it does happen.
The Mavs are eliminated, by the way. Lost by 3.
Officially.
Yeah.
Well, can't say I'm surprised, but we'll get on to that Sunday.
Yep.
Oh, sad pandas. Oh, wow.
So, can I say, I really think I want to avoid Seattle receivers this week completely.
Can I also say that I think the Vipers' best wide receiver, Jeff Bennett, is out or potentially limited? I think we should maybe think about playing one. The problem is I don't know which one.
I mean, Allison? I don't want to play Bryant, definitely.
No, I'm done with Bryant. I don't care. Bryant could get 100 could get 100 points this week, and I don't want to play him.
Yeah, I really don't want to. We've tried it too many times, and it's just failed over and over and over again.
I truly 100%. You can hold me to the fire on this one. If he scores 30 points, I will be fine not having him. I will be fine losing. I mean, this is coming from a guy who played Huntley again last week and got 0 points. I'm okay just closing the app at that point. So that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we don't play anyway. I'm just saying Jeff is out, so I do think that affects that team. Now, the Vipers to me have been, like, honestly, maybe the worst team, actually, if you were to use your eyeballs. I mean, we joke a lot about Orlando, but, like, the Vipers have been really bad, especially given their talent. I mean, this is a team that had Bryant, they have Brian Huntley, they have NFL pedigree, and they've just looked terrible. They also have Beasley on defense. This team just has not lived up to expectations. So, I'm forcing you now. I'm saying, like, this is up to you. You have to be the drill sergeant. You have to be the governor of our landscape. You have to make a call. Who do you want in this lineup?
I want Brandon Jackson from Seattle. Wait, is it Brandon? I might have messed his name up. It might not be Brandon, but yeah, I want Jackson from Seattle.
It's okay. We're talking about the
Blake. Sorry.
Yeah. He did play for Cleveland, though. I definitely know.
Literally being pissed off by Brandon Ingram tonight, so I'm sorry, Blake Jackson.
As long as you didn't say Pearson, I'm good with that. So,
no, I wanted a Seattle wide receiver. Wasn't going to be Gordon. And Pearson's just like, yes, I would like Pearson.
He's still too expensive.
He's so expensive.
But I think Blake is fine. And that gives us like a little like mini stack. Like we know Seattle's going off. We're just hoping this is where the touchdowns go.
Yeah, and the reason I want to play Jack is because he's still too expensive, Gov, but his production hasn't been there. So it's like they haven't priced to a point where he's too expensive to like count on. Well,
he has to have a really good boom game to even really be playable.
And he hasn't.
If he's just normal, you'll find the value elsewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. There is like a chance. Like he's one of those guys like I would definitely try to get like 15-20% of because there's a 15-20% chance he just catches 2 touchdowns on 10 targets or something like that, and then you need him even at his price. But the other 80% of the time, that price prohibits whatever score he gets from being useful.
I want to ask Donnie and then you, who do you think is going to be the highest owned quarterback?
I mean, I just think I don't know what the ownership's been looking like, but DiNucci is, always a guy that I would look at.
Okay,
my thought would have been DiNucci.
So then Philip Lindsay is still a good play because we're not playing DiNucci unless we do, which then obviously we're different because we got the stack. But even if we don't, we have 2 players that he's going to be throwing to. So basically, we either pair DiNucci or we don't, and we just hope for interceptions. We hope for that crazy game with lots of interceptions, lots of scoring. But, we still get maybe 2 rushing touchdowns. And then Jackson is like their slot guy, so you never know. Maybe we get that motion touchdown, or maybe we get a gimmick play. He's not their outside receiver. So I think we're good there.
Yeah, I think these 2 guys are good enough where they're like, yeah, I think this works. Like I said, I like this little mini stack of the Seattle game against DC. Like these are 2 of the top teams right now. They're in the same division. They're vying for stuff. So
Silvers was rolled out on the 2nd of this month, which is like I think the latest of all the quarterbacks rolled out. McDonald is the rushing quarterback. I kind of want to play McDonald this week.
Well, McDonald's was getting run even when Silvers was. Yeah. So maybe we just bank on it. I like banking on an athletic quarterback. Like when I have nowhere else to go, I think that's a good thing to bank.
The reason being is we played King a couple weeks ago, and a offense that didn't really fit his style. I just think Houston
We
loves
got a touchdown.
to drop back. I mean, I think McDonald has the highest upside of anyone on this slate.
I don't mind playing McDonald this week.
He's risky though.
He's definitely risky, but I'm fine getting risky at my quarterback when I don't think there's many locks at quarterback in this league where it's like, okay, this guy's going to have a ceiling game. So I'm fine with taking more risk here at quarterback.
Now, Gov, you tell me, because you're more the scientist. You're more the, I looked at this lineup. I know how to construct it guy. I'm more the emotional feel. I'm going to wear my heart on my sleeve DFS player. If we're going to play two Seattle players, do we then have to bring it back with the DC? Or is it, to Donnie's point, there's not enough talent to even worry about that kind of correlation?
I kind of like, I sort of agree with Donnie. Like, I don't think it's not because of the talent in the league.
Yeah,
it's more of the size of the lineup.
Yeah,
we're not filling a 9-man lineup like in an NFL.
True.
Where it's not as big of a parlay.
True.
So, like, could we correlate something else with it? Yeah, but with 4 games in the smaller lineup, I think we'd be better, like, correlating other spots.
The reason I kind of want to fill this game is a different reason. It's the one weather game, I believe. So the weather could play a factor, which I think will scare people off. But it has the biggest discrepancy, I believe, this season of any of the start times. And I just mean that in not terms of the start time itself, but the gap. So the first game starts at 1 on Saturday. The last game starts at 7 on Sunday. So, and then there's no Friday games, there's no Thursday games, there's no Monday games. So you're literally talking about everything being condensed, but also just a huge spread of times. Like, they really spread this week out, but then also condensed it. So I just think we're in a weird timing spot where the last game might be a fun game to target.
I mean, I feel like we should at least have someone for DC. Unless
I'm trying to think who would be my favorite DC play.
I think mine would be Blair. I think everyone will chase Lucky Jackson. He's more like the home run hitter. He's kind of like who's that? The guy for the Kansas City Chiefs that plays for the Green Bay Packers. He's more like the guy has 3 names. Why can't I think of his name right now? Scantling.
Oh.
He's more
Can
like.
I argue we have too much risk in this lineup, and I just want a consistent guy, someone who's going to be somewhat consistent in that we can trust.
Who is that, though, John?
The consistent guy I have for DC would be Lucky or Abram, because they're just there working on the field doing stuff. But like, I don't want to pay $10K for a running back.
I don't.
Right.
So we could. I'd be okay doing Lucky Jackson. He's 7,500. He's not horrible.
Yeah.
Are there 5 Jacksons? Can we do the Jackson 5?
We might be able to. I think this is the high 5 smash spot, and I just think we played the second best running back. We get the 2 best running backs talent-wise in this league, and we play Max Borgi. That's what I think.
I don't like playing 2 running backs. They just, in this league, they've just shown to not have amazing like ceilings. Maybe one guy breaks a 70-yarder and like, okay, he's the running back you need with 23 points. But most likely everyone's sort of just getting 13 to 15.
True. I mean, you could argue if we did that, though, we'd have 3 running backs on our team between McDonald and Borgi and Lindsay. But
I'm fine with that, though.
I was just gonna say,
I would say leave that for like if we have a last guy flex in and we have the money for him.
Can we
fine.
pick
Like,
defense now?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at player, let's pick defense. I feel like that's
let's
always
get
like
it out of the way.
if we get stumped in a spot, I feel like that's always something good to do. That's how I like what I like to do when we're at this
can
point.
we play the Renegade? Orlando's been terrible all year.
I'm fine with it, dude. We attack them every time.
They have one.
I either play the defense against Orlando or the Houston defense. Which one do you want?
I want Orlando against Orlando because everyone's going to see that one game with Dempsey, and they're going to say, "Well, Orlando won their first game. They put up like 40 points, but the recency bias is gonna blind everyone. They've sucked the rest of the season. You know, they have one good week, and then people want to play them.
Can we put Lattimore in even though we're playing the defense against them?
Yeah, because all you're really hoping for is turnovers, and then turnovers could also lead to points. You know,
Like I know it's, you know, a little bit more of an expensive play and we'll have to find someone kind of bottom of the barrel,
I
but
mean, we could. I don't actually like to play those.
Oh God, you know who that leaves you with, right?
who?
Let's put them in. See,
Just you Logan's gonna like it.
Bandy.
Leaves you with exactly enough money for Bandy.
For Bandy.
Oh, I mean, it fits so well together. It's almost as if it's fate.
Hey, here's the thing, Gov. I don't really want to play Lattimore, so if you can come up with a better option for Lattimore, we don't got to play Bandy.
Okay, so the one I wanted to do other than Lattimore was I wanted to stack with McDonald, but I didn't want Bandy. I wanted to go Harris. That would leave us 56.
Okay, do we like that better, though? Hold on.
And that would leave us someone like Blair.
Which we were looking at Blair earlier, I believe.
Or even, that would leave us like, then you could do like Blair and move off of Luck. Like if you did Blair there, now you have 400, you can move off of Lucky. Yeah, but to really no one. So like at that point, So now you're like full stacking that Seattle DC game, but you have McDonald and Harris.
Here's the thing. I could also do this, Gov. I'll give you and Donnie Lattimore. I'll give you Harris, and then you give me Bandy.
A play that we all don't like.
I mean,
It makes sense constructually too.
This is the first time
we all have something we wanted in this lineup, and
is this the first time we've made a lineup where we're all just like, there's one guy that we really don't want?
Well, that's the thing, because
that's hard to do when it's only 6 dudes. Like,
because if you think about it, the only guy we all three agree on is Lindsey, but then we love everybody else in this lineup, but
someone loves everyone else in this lineup,
right? But then
I think Harris is an amazing receiver for Houston, stepping up for Kirkland. I think he's going to show out here in the next week or two.
And I think Bandy has a chance. Like, I know it's a risk. I know it is. Like, he could get 0 points, and I'm okay with
But he
that.
will be on the field. He'll get probably a target to 3. He'll get 1 to 3 targets.
Right. You could argue, and I know this makes Donnie uncomfortable, and that's probably why he's all shriveled up right now in his bathing suit, thinking about this. Like, he could get 0 points, but he might be the best NFL wide receiver playing in this league.
See, I just don't think that's...
A couple weeks ago, that's hyperbole. A couple months ago, he was playing slot receiver starting for the Los Angeles Chargers. No one else had played, in an NFL meaningful games. Not even Cody Lattimore. Because what was Philip Lindsay like? He got a little bit.
Philip Lindsay was on the Texans, I believe.
He was on the Texans, right? Exactly.
And then Pierce just turned into a monster, which is cool.
But I think Pearson and Jackson actually have made themselves the most money. I think those are the two wide receivers that will transition to the NFL.
Well, maybe. I wonder if Lattimore gets another shot in the NFL now. I think it might be too late for him.
I think he would if he transitioned to tight end, but I don't think he'll. I don't think any team will do it. But I do think like if anyone was going to take that tight end to wide receiver route, it could work for him. Technically, he is a tight end in this league even.
Yeah.
So he is trying to reinvent himself.
I think this is a very interesting lineup that we have here.
Because you've been quiet. Why don't you give the people the last, like, the pitch statement, whether you hate it, you're throwing a ball. What are you throwing at this lineup? Are you throwing up? Like what's
I'm taking a 2v2 of this lineup and entering it in a contest currently. So like I'll throw it out there. I got rid of Bandy and Lattimore from that lineup. The two guys that I'm just like not thrilled with. And I made a 2v2. Actually, I did have no, I didn't. I was able to get it back to that. Yeah. I did a 2v2 of Bandy and Lattimore became Devon Smith, so the running back for Arlington. And then I went with Justin Smith, who is also a receiver for Houston. He's been there for most of the games, and like he might be equal or in the same depth chart as Bandy, to be honest.
I will tell you,
but he's been with the team longer.
Smith played his football at Michigan. This guy is like the best bowling ball, red zone guy you could ever imagine. He's not really going to give you anything other than touchdown upside. But touchdowns sway so much of the points in this league. And that's why you see
not just touchdowns. Like he's liable for 1, 2, and 3-point conversions.
Right. Well, that's it. I mean, like he is Marshawn Lynch.
He is scoring dependent, though. I'll give you that.
Right. He is
more like a little bit. He's not going to get you really much in the receiving game. So yeah, he's volume and scoring dependent.
Yeah, he's Marshawn Lynch around the goal line, though. Like he has a nose for the end zone. And when you look at points scored, I mean that's kind of what you want. But I just like the pass catching ability of Philip Lindsay or Max Crosby better. And
I like pairing my running back with my defense.
Right. That's one of your tattoos.
That's just something I like to do in a line. Right. Like if it helps the game, that if I'm looking at something at the end or something like, okay, that correlation is always.
That's kind of
it's always known. It's there. I don't mind playing it.
That's the stars and scrubs approach with me. You'll never knock the stars and scrubs out of me. I'm going to be like Rocky. I'm still going to get up and I'm going to take my big, Hollywood moment when it comes to stars and scrubs. I just don't ever think I'm ever going to build any DFS lineup that's ever balanced.
Yeah. I'm more on the stars and scrubs mindset as well. So, but that's because you kind of taught me the ropes.
Oh God,
probably.
That's too much responsibility for an ugly white guy like myself, Donnie. I don't deserve that.
Well, you kind of taught me how to build DFS lineups. I mean, granted, I always, once you gave the justification of why you build a lineup, I agreed with it. So.
I thought, this show is dragging, or like, oh man, we need to speed up. This year hasn't really hit its stride, but we're only an hour in. I think we built a lineup. I think we kind of reached the point of destination, and it was actually more fluid than I'm probably giving it credit for. I don't really see any reason to extend it much past this point, especially since we are doing a special show Sunday. So do you guys have any lasting statements you want to make? I thought we built a good lineup tonight. So.
I actually did like I may make a bunch of 2v2s off of this lineup.
Yeah. I am looking forward to NBA, honestly. Like I want to get out of here and get ready for Sunday.
Oh, playoff NBA is one of my favorite times of the year.
It is.
Dude, don't get it. I told you I wasn't going to play for the last couple of weeks, and I stayed true to that. The playoffs.
I'm about to say I'll be doing showdown playoffs every day.
Logan,
did we ever build a playoff lineup together? when we used to like really do stuff before the podcast. I don't think we've ever done NBA together.
Oh,
No,
I'll show you guys NBA Showdown.
We've only done the best ball for NBA. So
Well, I just meant me and you personally in private time.
no, not even that. And by the way, we're coming up on our anniversary, I believe, because me and Gov started doing shows with Mike, and even me and Mike did a couple before that, right around the playoff time, because we did some watch along type content for the playoffs. That's how I know we're coming up on an anniversary show. So that's kind of a trope to Sunday as well that we can get into. I'm really looking forward to the playoffs, to our anniversary, and just continued growth and success with my friends. So good night, guys. Thanks for joining me. It's been a lot of fun.
Night, everyone.
Peace out.